welcome everyone to our latest edition of our podcast where we talk about books because we love books. I'm Rebecca Reed from Indiana, and this is my partner in books, Rebecca Yager from Dallas, Texas. How you doing, Rebecca?
Doing pretty well. It's a sunshiny day here, so I like
Ah,
it.
it is not a sunshiny day here, so
Spring is
that's
coming, Rebecca.
yeah, I know, I know. That's the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah.
Spring doesn't always produce good weather. But that's okay. Because we're going to talk about a fantastic book today. At least that's my opinion. I'll tell you that right off the top of the thing. I actually really love this book. It ticks a lot of boxes for me, but we'll get into that more in just a bit. So today we're doing a review, Sarah Sundin's Midnight on the Scottish Shore. And Rebecca's got a gonna read the back cover for us so we have a good kind of beginning point and then we'll dig in.
There we go. In a time of war, danger lurks beneath the water and in the depths of the human heart. As the German war machine devours the Netherlands, the only way Scylla van der Zee can survive the occupation is to do the unthinkable, train to become a spy for the Nazis. Once dispatched to Britain, she plans to abandon her mission and instead aid the Allies. But her scheme is thwarted when Naval Officer Lieutenant Lachlan Mackenzie finds her along the Scottish shore and turns her in to be executed. Yet perhaps she is more useful alive than dead. British intelligence employs her to radio misleading messages to Germany from the lighthouse at Dunnan Head in Scotland, messages filled with naval intelligence Lachlan must provide. If the war is to be won, Lachlan and Scylla must work together. But how can he trust a woman who arrived on his shores as a tool of the enemy, a woman certain to betray both him and the Allied cause? And again, this is Midnight on the Scottish Shore by Sarah Sundin.
All
All
right.
right, you loved it. Go.
I did. Well, it's Scottish. Duh. I mean, and I listened to the book, which I highly recommend. Highly, highly. If you like the Scottish accent, if you're into that, highly recommend the audio version of this book. It was fantastic. The narrator was great. She did a fantastic job with all the accents because there was German, there was Dutch, there was the Scottish, and then like British too, which is, different. So she did all of those and did a fantastic job with that. And it really flowed to listen to it. So that was fun. I also, it has a legend. I mean,
Well,
the
yeah.
Selkie legend, that's
Selkie, yep.
perfect. I love the Selkie legend. I love Scottish legends in general. Um, so I liked that. Also, I'm not a big World War II fan. That is not my favorite genre to read. However, this book isn't going to be like any other you've ever read because it's set, in northern Scotland. How many World War II books have you read that's set in northern Scotland? This is the first one I've ever
First
heard
one.
of. So there's that. Plus, it deals with the Dutch resistance, which is usually we get the French resistance, the Italian resistance, or even the German resistance, a little, what little of that there was. But this is not any of that. This is the Dutch. So this is a different perspective from both sides. I really like that. Plus, it deals with spies and
Mhm.
counter-espionage and all of those fun things. So, I mean, I loved it, even though it was World War II. I thought, World War II was the negative for me, but this book is, if you don't like World War II, forget that it's World War II because it's not really anything like you've ever heard of before, what that is like World War II. So great, as far as that goes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll stop.
definitely. I'm a longtime reader of of Sarah Sundin's books, and I can tell you this was different with the taking place in Scotland, like you said, for the most part in the Dutch resistance and things like that. But one thing I can't wait to ask Sarah when we interview her is she has to do meticulous research because with this book and with books I've read of hers previously, I mean, I don't know, the details, the story just comes alive. The details, you feel like you're in Scotland. You feel like you're aiding, sending these covert messages to the Germans and things like that. You talked about we're going to go back a little bit. You talked about listening to it and the dialogue and the brogue, so to speak, the accents of that. The Scottish dialogue was written into the book. As a reader, I mean, I got it, knew what they were saying. Um, I'm not sure that was my favorite part though. And I know
Mhm.
she was trying to be authentic. So I don't want that to, again, it doesn't ruin the enjoyment of the book. I will tell you that. But the spelling of things like cannot, which was pronounced
Canna,
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 but it was like CANNAE,
AE.
something like that. I cannot, and you got used to it after a while, but when it first appeared on the page, it was a little distracting, not ruining things, but I had to stop at first and think, what's the word? And when I'm reading dialogue, I'm hearing it in my head. And so that made me stumble just a little bit because again, I'm a huge Sarah Sundin fan, so I don't want that to be a complete negative or ruin the enjoyment of the book. But if you're going to stumble over dialogue, then maybe audio is the way to go on this one. Um, with this, I don't know, but again, great book, but some of the words, some of the Scottish words you're trying to pronounce in your head, and you don't know if you're getting them right. Yeah,
Yeah, I was curious as I listened to it whether they were written out that way. That's
Mhm,
the downside of
mhm,
audio, right? You never know how the characters' names are spelled or the places or exactly when there is a dialect like that, you never know if it's written that way or if the narrator is just putting that in because you're
right.
never sure. So I was interested, that was interesting to learn that it is written in there because I have a story like that too. And it's like 50-50 split. Like we hate it, we love it. I
Mhm.
think it's kind of that way. Oh, Ziva's showed
Hello,
up.
Ziva.
Hi, Ziva.
She had to come visit. She heard my voice. Here
Yes,
she
she did.
came. She knew you're busy. Well, but that's interesting when you say you were wondering how it was spelled. And in my head, I'm going, am I pronouncing it to myself the way it's pronounced, like
Yeah.
Dunnet head and Scapa flow, all that. That turns out, yeah, hey, um, I did do it okay, but just the canna and I don't dunna,
Dunna.
don't want to. I mean, there was just some of those that were.
Kenna. You can. They said that a lot too. You can and yeah, all
That was
those.
it was more the can nots that got it because that's one
Yeah, because
word.
Ken, I think everybody,
So,
like anybody that knows anything about Scotland, like the you can, I think
mhm,
everybody gets that, right?
right,
That's
right.
you hear that often enough in movies or, just in general. So that part's not hard. It is some of those other words that you're never quite sure if you don't read stuff that's written that way a lot or you're
Mhm,
not Scottish or haven't visited to see it written out,
right.
like
Mhm,
that. Yeah, I could definitely see where that would um kind of be just like you said, just like a little it would take you out until you figured it out and then
mhm,
you'd have to kind of get used to it and then
mhm.
you'd probably
And
be
then once I
fine.
got used to it, you kind of
Hmm.
got into the flow of it. And it was interesting to see the words and see the Scottish stuff and to try to, hear that accent in my own head as I went along. But now you've got me curious about the audiobook. That might be fun to listen to anyway,
It's
just to
very
hear
fun
it.
to listen to. I enjoyed it a lot.
I did.
I'm curious, just kind of, this is from an author standpoint, but
Okay.
like if she had given you like a short list at the beginning and said, "Hey, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this," would that have been helpful? Like just a short, like, here are the Scottish like writing, this is how it's going to be written in the Scottish. This is what it means in English. I'm just as curiosity.
Sometimes that is helpful to have, when you see this word, it's cannot, and then you pick it up naturally as it
Hmm.
goes along. Um, I don't know. And then you have the readers that skip over anything that's not a chapter in the book. They won't even read prologues or
True.
read the matter. And I read all of it. I read acknowledgments at the end.
Yeah.
I like reading the reader questions or skimming through them,
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, that might have been a little helpful, but again, it's something you can pick up as you go along. It's
Yeah.
just at first it was a little, oh, oh, okay, that's what it is, because with
Yeah.
the flow of the sentence, that's has to be what it means,
Right.
that it is cannot. Mm.
Okay. I suppose we better get into the story instead of debating how to write dialogue or
No,
write
this is fascinating.
dialect, you know?
Hey, something
Um,
to think about. I know, but I'm curious, has any of our listeners or viewers read a book that was off-putting that way? And would
yeah.
they enjoy a little glossary of terms at the beginning, which I have seen in other books?
Yeah.
I
You
would be
guys should
curious.
comment about that. If
Mhm.
you're listening to this, make a comment and say, yes, I would like that. No, that I wouldn't read it,
Mhm.
or, that'd be helpful or it wouldn't, because that would really help, I think, a lot of authors. Because I think there's a lot of fantasy authors, especially who delve into the dialects and things. And,
Mhm.
it's helpful to know, like, what do you want? As
Right,
a reader, what is helpful to you? What would you tolerate? What would you prefer we not do?
right,
Because until you've put the book out there, sometimes you don't get enough of a sample to really know what the
right.
majority of readers do want. So that would be very helpful.
Yeah, well, I'd be curious about that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the story, which we both, the spy stuff was so much fun.
Oh, it was.
So,
It was.
which was really great. Again, um, side characters in the book this time, we have our thing for side characters. I liked Lachlan's parents,
Mm,
who were
yes.
very
They
much part of
were
this story.
they were a very stabilizing force, I felt like, in this very kind of uncertainty of war, where your main characters are always living kind of in a dangerous place with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of doubt as to what they're kind of about. In this story, the parents were like rock solid through
Yeah.
the whole thing, and they had a specific place that they were going to be, and they reacted the same all the time, and they were they were very static characters, which is fine,
Mm,
but they were the anchor kind of the story.
yeah.
And they were really phenomenal to listen, to hear them with how they um, dealt with the sibling Lachlan and his brother Neil, because they have a huge rift
Yeah.
that is a major part of the story. So listening to the parents deal with that, having Ziva, no, you have to
And for
go.
anyone listening, do they know that Ziva is your dog? I
I hope
ask because
so. Yes, Ziva's my dog. I'm not yelling at a child or anything.
no,
Ziva won't keeps putting her paw up here. She wants something, but I don't know what she wants.
is it playtime? She
I think she might want, I don't know what she wants, but she isn't getting it right now. So I'm rubbing her ears. She
okay.
likes that.
But I just thought about that because we do this for video, and so I'm seeing Ziva, but I
Oh, that's
realize what
true.
that's
Yeah. Yes,
just
listeners, this is Ziva is my dog. So yes,
you're a great big dog.
my humongous dog. Yeah.
What kind of dog? I mean,
She is
sorry.
a South African Borbal.
Okay.
Yes. She's a, she was bred, they bred them from like English Mastiffs to protect lions from lions, not protect lions, protect from lions, like the cattle or the
Okay.
animals that they
Okay.
raised, that they heard, whatever they heard in South Africa. These dogs were meant to fend off the lions.
Very good. See, we're just all over the place today, aren't we? All right. Let's get we touched on this. I do want to get into Lachlan and Scylla's character arcs, and those are greatly impacted by their siblings
Yes.
too. Because Scylla has a sister that she has left behind when she came
Hmm.
over, and then Lachlan and his brother Neil, and Neil's there, and they couldn't be further apart on anything they believe,
Almost
think.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because Lachlan, of course, well, we not of course, you don't know if you haven't read the book yet, but Lachlan is in the Navy. He's in the Royal Navy, fighting on England's side in the war. Um, but he had previously been kicked out of the Royal Naval College. He and his brother were both set to attend. They were going to a like the was it were they actually in the Naval College? I'm like my details are getting
Ooh.
confused. Or was it the prequel to that? I can't remember.
It sounds like the prequel because it was,
Yeah.
but
I think it was
leading
the
that way.
like the
So,
maybe we would call it like a junior like a high school for people going into the military, kind of. You know, like a prep school kind of deal. Anyway, whatever it was, they were destined for the Navy. That was where they were headed. But they both got kicked out, actually, essentially. Um, and or one dropped out. I don't know. Anyway, Lachlan got kicked out, and he wanted a naval career very badly.
right.
It was only because they needed everybody because of the war that he was even in the Navy right now to begin with. He loved being in the Navy.
Mhm,
It was his dream from the beginning. He was a good officer, but like I said, he knew this was a temporary thing.
mhm.
Um, which was not good for he didn't want it to be, but that was he knew that. His father runs a salvage business. And so he had been working in the salvage business until he was accepted into the Navy because of the war. His brother was in prison because he refused to sign up for the draft. So he was put in prison for
Mhm.
that. Um, so
And
that's
his
kind of where
political beliefs are part of that, which
oh, absolutely. He belongs to a very radical but non-violent group of Scottish separatists. So they want nothing to do with England. They believe it's England's war, not Scotland's. They even went so far as to say they would welcome the Germans as, into Scotland or some craziness before
right.
they really realized what that meant.
What? Yeah, yeah,
They didn't know. They're somewhat naive in a way, like they're almost removed from the reality of what's really going on. It's like they were throwbacks to generation or two ahead of them, I feel like. Um, but that's the group that Neil, the brother of Lachlan, belongs to. And that and so there's all kinds of interesting things that come about because of him and his involvement there. But
but part of
then
this history, sorry to interrupt, with the
no,
schooling and stuff like that is kind of what has, I don't want to say locked Lachlan down, yes, but he's kind of uptight.
yeah.
He's kind of
Yeah,
he's and Scylla, on the other hand, was always this free-spirited kind of party girl. I know this takes place in the 40s, but I almost picture her like a flapper girl in the 20s,
yeah,
just,
totally. Yeah.
party
Almost a
all the
hippie.
time.
She's like a cross between a flapper and a hippie. Is she?
Okay.
I don't know what you'd call a person like that.
I don't know, but anyway, she's kind of a party girl and flighty and didn't take things seriously. So it is interesting to see their character arcs as she, learns to believe in herself more and Lachlan loosens up, trusts himself, but loosens up. And then how it affects, well, we know how it affects the relationship of Lachlan and his brother Neil, and just the way Scylla talks about her sister. And
Yeah. Because her sister had bought into the whole Nazi propaganda, and she was in the Nazi groups that were meeting, that were organizing the Dutch citizens to become, support the
support the
Nazis.
Nazis. Mhm,
And she was involved with that, whereas Scylla was a resistance.
mhm,
She was in the resistance, so they were on
mhm,
opposite sides. But she wouldn't give up on her sister, and she just, she just had that real loyalty, to her sister, and we see that from the very beginning. And there's a lot of bad things going on in Holland, um,
mhm.
the Netherlands,
Well, as the story opens, and there we briefly talked about this before we started. There's some tough things in this book. It starts out
Yes.
pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, think about it, but that's what gets Scylla on her trajectory um, through the book. But then halfway through, things we learn. with Neil and his brother that are very difficult, but very, very, very well written.
Yes. I
Very,
completely agree. Like, if you ever want to learn how to talk about really tough things, but not name them, you could, this one has that, right? I mean, it's a very, very difficult, dark topic. Never is it named, not once, but you don't need it to be named. You get it
you get it. You don't
without
need
that.
it in your face, which is
No.
my number one complaint about movies and stuff right now. It's like, yeah, I have a brain. I don't need to see every kill shot or every, all of that. I don't need all the
Yeah.
graphic stuff. And so this was done so, so well that even if it's a younger reader reading it and they don't quite understand, they still know something bad happens. But it's not going to be something that traumatizes them because it's so graphically explained.
Right.
That makes
And
sense.
even like the natural, like the deaths that happen from the natural byproduct of war and occupation at the beginning, nothing is graphic. It's just, and it mostly deals with Scylla's emotions of how she feels about the people who were killed and that. So
Mhm.
it's not like you don't see the actual death or you get a feel for it. It feels oppressive, but it's not graphic.
Yeah,
So
it,
it's
it feels
yeah.
wartime, and Lachlan had some deaths too with the boats and
Yes.
the shipping and the
Hmm.
things like that. Now he's there in Scapa Flow to kind of barricade so the U-boats and stuff can't get into Scotland and try to invade Britain and
Hmm.
Scotland that way, take over that way. So he's doing defense work there, which means when Scylla gets there and they are um, she's trying to help the allies, but he doesn't believe that she's an ally. And yet he's got to give these secrets that she can transmit to the Germans. It's love all the
It,
conflict there, all
it's
that
very,
tension.
yes, there's a lot of impossible choices in this book.
Oh, well said. Yes.
Many of these characters are faced with multiple impossible choices.
Impossible choices, which is
Yeah.
war. There are
Hmm.
no good choices, really.
Yeah. They're yeah, it's like bad or worse.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, literally, and there's just so much of that. But it makes for good tension and conflict, and also it makes it very the choices that they do make, you understand they're kind of made under duress, but they also had no way to not make that choice. Like, and there are lots of choices is really a big theme, I feel like, in this book. I didn't really think about it before, but it honestly is because it's really Scylla's choice at the very beginning sets this whole thing into
Yeah.
motion. The fact that she wants to get out of the Netherlands, and the reason she wants to, I don't think it's telling anything that we can't tell,
Okay.
but the reason she wants to get out of the Netherlands is because she has infiltrated this Nazi group as a resistance person, and she is acting, and she's a good actress, but she's
Yeah.
worried that she is going to give herself away, and then that means for her,
Hmm.
she's done for.
She's
So
making life and death choices, really, for
she's
herself.
escaping for her life, and
Yes.
the only route she has out is to pretend to become a German spy. I mean, what kind of choice is that? Like I have to escape this country. Everything is barricaded. There's no way for me to get out unless I pretend I'm going to spy for the people I despise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, now she was raised or she spent vacations in England. She has family in England,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
partly why she gets to be a spy because she already has the language capabilities and she knows like about the area and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
Um, but I mean, she has plans to completely, you know, not be a spy. But then, of course, and you can imagine, the Nazis are keeping her family kind of as a collateral for her going away too. So there's that danger there. So it's like if she does betray Germany and they find out, Her family is done for.
Yeah, they're going to take out her family. Again, life and death. I mean, there are no good choices.
No.
She's doing things to save her own life or her family's life.
Yeah.
Um,
And Lachlan is protecting his homeland. He's protecting his family.
mhm.
And, when he's forced to give these secrets that they, the what is it, M15? Is that what they're
Oh,
called?
like MI5, like it'd be
MI5.
MI6, it'd be
Yeah,
MI5.
whatever they are.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes,
thought.
sorry. It's like Bond, but not.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the next level down before it's
yeah, it's the next
MI6.
level down. It's domestic, not international.
Okay.
So MI5, not MI6.
Yeah.
Just to be clear. Um, anyway, uh, MI5 is like, no, these things we're telling them are gonna get to them too late for them to use. They're gonna be, but I mean, they're real secrets. They're not like fake
They have to be
secrets.
verifiable or else she's
Yeah.
done for
So
too.
Lachlan is struggling with
Struggling.
this. Um, yeah, struggling bad. But he's also being held over a barrel. They have
Yes.
some dirt on him as well.
No spoilers.
I'm not,
But they
but
have dirt
that's
on him, yes.
they have dirt on him. And, so he also has no choice. He's giving away secrets under the nose of the boss that doesn't like him very much, to working with someone he caught himself on his family's property as a German spy,
Yeah.
knowing that she is taking what he says and sending it to his enemy. Terrible.
Terrible, but lovely and twisted and
Oh,
filled
it's
with
great.
tension and
And we have to
conflict.
talk about the Selkie. I'm sorry. We
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 have to talk about
cannot
the
go
Selkie. I
away
wasn't gonna,
without the
yeah, we have
Selkie.
to. We have to.
So, every good spy needs a code name.
Yes. Yes.
And so Scylla, because Lachlan discovered her on the edge of the ocean, hiding her boat, which was black, so it's like her seal skin.
Mhm.
He calls her a Selkie when he first finds her, actually, and they take that and use that as her code name, because if you don't know the legend of the Selkie, it's kind of woven through this story, and it
Yeah.
really is a recurring theme that keeps coming up, and it actually very much relates to Lachlan and Scylla's relationship, and it really parallels that story as very well. So that was really interesting. So we're gonna have to talk uh to Sarah about the Silky legend and how that kind of played into the writing of this story as well.
Absolutely. Because yeah, it was really fun. In fact, my granddaughter mentioned Selkies the other day, and it was like, oh, I know,
I know what that is.
and stuff. And she's looking at me like, really, Grammy? So
See, the things you can learn in fiction
there you
are
go.
immense. Like, it's not just stuff that people make up. There's real stuff in them, in these stories. So,
As I said,
lots of real stuff. So,
well, as I said, if people tried to tell the true story of things like this, they wouldn't believe it. But there's more truth in fiction.
yeah.
So, and
True.
again, I know, in knowing Sarah, I mean, there's so much realism in this, or things that are based off it to make this just it felt real. I felt like we were in the middle
Oh,
of World War II.
absolutely. Yeah, she does a great job with Story World, and she gets all the senses, in there. You can see the colors of the ocean, you can see the birds, you get a feel for the land, and they ride bicycles all over, so you get really good views of the town and the land and the farm that Lachlan's parents live on, and which is called Craignamara. Isn't that beautiful?
Great.
Craignamara.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, I think it just means home on the sea. It's really like mundane when you translate it. Sounds much better in Scottish.
And especially with the right accent too, the right
Craignamara.
emphasis on the
Yes, I don't
words.
know.
So
They roll their R's in Scotland. I think that's why I like it so much.
yeah, listen, yeah, it might be worth listening to. Just for all that. But okay, so we've talked a lot. This is a tension-filled story, lots of conflict. We've talked about the war, character arcs, but there's also a little bit of romance in here.
Of course, there's romance.
course. So this is historical romance. Um, and the way, because they're the things that, you know, Lachlan is kind of uptight and locked down, and Scylla, who's always been this free spirit, is just like, dude, what's the matter with you? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
The way they see each other, and of course, he thinks she's a spy. I mean, so how are they ever going to get together? So it's really interesting how Sarah broke it down
Yes.
layer by layer as they got to know each other and work with each other. And did they trust each other? That was huge. It's not just,
Hmm.
oh, I think you're handsome. Oh, you're pretty. Let's get together. No, there was major barriers and major trust
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah. This is a very it's an interesting way to do a slow burn romance, I feel like, because not only is I mean, he is attracted to her physically, but that is it. Like that's the only thing that about her that he likes at first.
He wouldn't be a man if he did not acknowledge a beautiful woman. And she's
Right.
pretty. She's a beautiful
Yes.
woman. So,
And, but yeah, he does not like her. He does not trust her. He is so against this whole scheme that's, MI5 has like pushed on him. He is just like, this is ridiculous. I no. So it's really like he what he falls in love with is her personality, her intelligence, her adaptability, her all the qualities that we want men to notice when we're women. It's not the face because that goes away. It's all
mhm.
the inner stuff. And that's what really, those are the things that just little by little pull him in. And he doesn't even, I don't even think he feels it at first. Like he doesn't even, he's still so set on just being her enemy.
Mhm.
But, then of course he has to realize it at some point because we wouldn't have a story. Um, but even once he feels it, it is illegal for him to date her. So
Mhm.
not only is there the beginning, the antagonism and she's my enemy, then once he decides she's not his enemy, he can't do
You
anything
can't do
still.
anything about
Like,
it. Yeah.
so it's a very the ending was perfect in my opinion. I loved the ending. We're not telling you what the ending is,
No,
mind you.
I almost felt like there were two ending. I mean, it ended
Yeah.
and it was good, and then it kept going and kind of ended again. And
Well, yeah, because I think the threads, it was impossible to end the threads exactly in the same place. Like you have your main plot, your external plot,
right,
which was basically the misinformation that was going on.
right,
That ended earlier.
right,
There was a huge climax related to that, and the fact that Scylla was the double, agent. That whole external plot thread ended early, or not at the end of the book, not early, but it ended when it should have ended. But it
right.
like I'm not saying this very well, but
No,
anyway,
it ended earlier, and then it took a while to okay.
the
Are they
romance because the romance was such a slow burn, it and the regulation part of it like
yeah.
kept them apart. So there was no way they could end the romance at the same time as the other thread. There was just no way she
No,
could do it.
no.
Absolutely no way.
But it
But
just
what
felt
she
like
did
even
do was good.
she did. She did. And it ends, it's very lovely. But yeah, at first you're like, wait, are they gonna get together?
I know it's very
Because it felt like
uncertain.
it ended and it felt like everything was wrapped up, you know. And
Yeah. But then we get to know about something else that's interesting about the war. Like the more into the spy part,
oh,
right? The
mhm,
espionage part.
mhm.
You're gonna get into and this part I've actually read a little bit about in some other books, so it's a little bit more well known, I feel like, the part that comes at the end.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, it was well done. It was definitely worth the added few pages that it took to kind of wrap up that romance
To
thread.
get them there towards
Yes.
at the end.
Never
Yeah.
fear. there is a they do, I'm not gonna, I mean, it's like you know already that it's a romance book, they're gonna get together. I don't think you
No,
can, like, there's no question that
yeah,
eventually they are gonna get together. It's
yeah.
just that how it works and how it happens, like, is very well, it's different. It's not
It
the
is
same
different.
old romance that you've read over and over and over and over. It's not.
No,
It's
this was
very
more
unique.
the historical and the war part, and then the romance was really just kind of sprinkled in there a little bit at a time as they grew. But again, all these barriers and that were natural barriers. It wasn't, oh, I saw him with another woman and gosh, he must be, cheating on me or something, the cliches that can be taken care of with a conversation in real life. These are not things that can be taken care of with a conversation, the barriers and the obstacles that Scylla and Lachlan faced. So it was that, yeah, that part was well done. And again, slow burn, I think I'm becoming a fan of slow burn romances.
Yeah.
Last few we've had, it's
But
really,
they're hard to write
yeah.
well because you have to have all of these things to keep them apart logically, like you said, that aren't contrived or
Five
easily
misunderstandings.
solved or,
Right.
whatever. So I'm a fan of a well-written slow burn romance, but I'm not a fan of the fake ones.
Yeah, it makes sense. The contrived, I think you said it, the
Yeah, I
contrived
don't like those. I'd rather they
misunderstandings
just let them get together.
that,
And then
yeah.
just have extra problems hit them that are hard on them both. If I'm kind of actually, I will admit, I'm a very big fan of not having a breakup.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
don't
think
really like the breakup,
I,
but
you're
when
not
it's
alone.
done right, like this book, where they
Yeah.
have to be apart, this was not a breakup. It was a forced separation.
Yes. Yeah. No, not a
That's
breakup.
different. I
Very
don't
much so.
mind that. I'm not a big fan of breakups.
Well, because usually, again, they're contrived or they're a
Yeah,
misunderstanding or it's something that can be easily solved. And I'm thinking, what kind of future is it for this couple if they can't even communicate and
right.
solve this issue? It's
Totally, yes.
one
I
of
feel
those
like
things.
the non-breakup thing is getting more popular.
I think it is too. I think people are a little tired of
Yeah,
if a breakup is meaningful, then yeah, but if it's contrived, then,
yeah.
it's
I'm
not the same. Yeah.
like, we don't have to make them go apart. Like, you can do something different to cause trouble.
All right, fellow romance writers, figure this out. Ooh,
Mm,
get it, put a twist on it. But I liked what you said too. If a couple gets together, then let's know the obstacles and how are they going to be as a couple facing
yeah.
the obstacles together. So there is something to be said for that instead of having the breakup.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've read a few that were really well done that way, and I was a fan. I was like, yep, I like that. So,
Well,
yeah.
Sarah Sundin does it very well in this
Yes.
particular book too. Not a breakup though.
Not a breakup.
Forced separation, lots of obstacles, realistic obstacles, especially
Mm-hmm.
for, a wartime story.
Yeah.
Um, so
So we
very
get to talk
exciting.
to Sarah soon.
Yes, in a couple of weeks. So yes, come back for that because again, Sarah is a she's a very good World War II author. I know she does meticulous research. If you follow her on social media for the longest time, she would even put little historical tidbits.
Mm-hmm.
What happened 80 years ago today or 75 years ago today that relates to the war. So I actually can't wait to talk to her. And
Yeah.
I'm more
Me either.
curious about her research and how she just, makes these stories come alive.
Or how does she find these things? Like, because this is very obscure.
Yeah.
Like, how do you stumble onto something like this? Like, are you, that's what I want to know. Like, is it something you searched out, or did you just come across it and think that would make a great story? That's what I
Mhm.
want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And feel free to, like, if you have questions that you think
Oh,
we should
yes.
ask particular, authors, types of authors and stuff, feel free to comment those because we would be happy to ask them for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts and
Yeah,
questions for our authors. So yes, you still have time to do this. So and if we don't get to it this round with Sarah, it is something we'll start collecting them and start asking the
right.
authors
Yeah, because sometimes we do these ahead, and
way ahead. Yeah.
by the time we saw your question, it wouldn't be able to do it for that particular author. But the next time we get a historical author, we could ask those
We could
types of
ask.
questions.
So,
So
no,
we would
that would be
love
fun.
to do that for you.
Yeah, gather some questions. All right. Well, again, we are speaking with Sarah Sundin in 2 weeks. And then let's see, May. Ooh, May. Trisha
May
Goyer.
is interesting.
Yeah.
May has a genre mashup story.
Ooh, this is going to be really different for us too.
Yes, it is. And I just found out last night they released the Realm Awards long list, and this book is on it.
Oh, wow. So
So, yes, we're
it's
going to be talking about, go ahead.
it's Breath of Bones by Trisha Goyer, who should be well known in most Christian fiction circles, but she is writing this mashup with her son, with Nathan Goyer. And how would we describe Breath of Bones as a genre?
Well, it is World War II steampunk. That's what it is. World War II. So we're doing a different kind of World War II
Totally different.
story,
Yeah.
completely different. Steampunk style.
Yeah. And so people don't know what steampunk is, but it's
And it
very,
also has a legend too in it.
well, we like
So,
our legends. So
yes,
this is good, but that should be fun. Trisha is going to be a great guest,
absolutely.
and well known. So I really am looking forward to speaking to her, but a whole new different style of book for her. Well, her part's the kind of historical, which she is good at, but to see what Nathan brings to the picture there with the
Yep.
steampunk of things. So that will be good. But meanwhile, if you haven't read Midnight on the Scottish Shores by Sarah Sundin, pick it up and maybe do audio. Give yourself a treat. Yeah.
I highly recommend that.
um,
Yes.
and then meanwhile, please come back here again when we talk to Sarah Sundin. Check us out at rebeccaandrebecca.com. We're on Instagram. We are on Facebook. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, um, find us, look us up. It's Rebecca and Rebecca. We're really easy to find.
And YouTube. Don't forget the YouTube.
YouTube. Yes, we do have our own YouTube channel, but all the information, all those links are at rebeccaandrebecca.com.
Yes.
And
So,
then like
yes.
and
So,
subscribe, comment.
please, we would love to read those and make and change if you need, anything you suggestions, anything like we're always up to. We want to make this valuable to you. That's our
Mhm.
goal. So whatever it is that you think would help, please suggest it, and if we can do that, we will.
Yep.
So we appreciate that. But yeah, until next time, we love books, and we hope that this chat has been fun for you and that has helps you figure out which books you want to check out on your own as well. So that's all I
Very
got.
good. We'll see
Yeah.
you next time.
See you next time. Bye.